Hello, my name is Griffted, and recently I was invited to be interviewed on a podcast. It's called the H&K Video Game Experience Podcast and is helmed by two dudes, Hollywood Cole and Clearfire. Love the names, very podcasty names, right? Anyway, I've been listening to this podcast for a while and I just love tossing it on while I play a game. The H&K Podcast is primarily a video game focused podcast, but sometimes they'll focus on other media, like they just recently did a 1980s movie podcast. It was super cool to be invited onto their show, and I had a great time. The beginning of the show, we sort of talk about the new online Switch service and the new PlayStation Classic coming out. Then the rest of the time is the actual interview. Here's a small clip from the podcast. And there's these nuances with the hunting horn, just like many weapons in Monster Hunter, except for dual blades, because, come on, let's be honest, guys. But
don't be hating on that now. That's my weapon there.
So there's things that you learn. It's just like a fighting game character, right? There's nuances that you learn that you don't know from 10 hours of gameplay and then making a guide about it. You learn it after 1,000 hours of game, and you're like, okay, now this clicks. I want someone to tell me those little intricacies, those tiny little details. And I was like, no one's doing it. I might as well do it. And so that's how the channel was born. There you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that small clip from the H&K podcast. If you guys want to check out the full interview, the link is in the description. You can get the podcast on multiple formats: iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and YouTube, all of which are of course free and linked in the description. Send these guys some love, because this podcast is an absolute labor of love for video gaming. These are two dudes who both have families, both have careers, and still find the time to put out content for a hobby that they love, and that's just amazing to me. Thanks again to the guys for the H&K podcast for the interview, and as always, keep playing that sweet chin music, boys.